welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a great episode coming up here. Paranormal filmmaker, writer, and director Kyle Mecca is with us tonight. Just had a DVD release of his movie Dwelling. I got a chance to watch it last night, which it was fantastic. So we're going to get into all of that here very shortly. I'm, of course, Mike Ricksecker, and I'm here with Vanessa Hogle, as usual, and of course, our chat Shananigator, Shana, down in the chat room. How you doing tonight, Vanessa?
Perfect.
Awesome. And yes, we are going with a little bit of format. If you get here, I can't do that. But we have them up and down rather than side to side. So I'm not always trying to, duck and weave and dodge. Yeah, really looking forward to tonight. We weren't Edge of the Rabbit Hole back then, but have interviewed Kyle Mecca a couple years ago on the Hogle Media channel. We just recorded it and threw it up here, so it's great to have him back now that the movie has actually been released. And before we get into that, we of course have a couple of housekeeping things to take care of. And just real quick here. Of course, if you're a first-time viewer, subscribe to the channel, please. The Patreon Q&A. It's coming out tomorrow. I do have a couple of questions in, but if you do have a question for the Q&A, please go ahead and submit that tonight. You can just message me. You can hit Hogle Media up real quickly or what have you, and we'll get that in tonight. I'm going to record it tomorrow, or like right after work, and then get it up tomorrow night. So yeah, if you have any Q&A questions, please, by all means, submit them. I think that's really about it. You got anything, Vanessa?
No, you're working on my book. Other than that, I'm
working
good.
on Vanessa's book, yeah. So the editing is complete.
For one thing.
Yeah.
For one. I'm all right.
I thought you said you had one thing.
That was it.
That was it. Okay. All right. Yeah, and what do we got? Oh, this coming weekend, stay tuned. We are going to, at some point, I don't know the specific day yet, depends on Shauna's work schedule, we are going to go live from an investigation. So be on the lookout for that, because we're going to do it here on YouTube. I know we did the last couple on Facebook Live. We're going to do this one on YouTube Live, see how that goes. So be on the lookout for that. Do want to thank everybody for watching the Bel Air House video that was just released. That's been going like crazy. So really appreciate that. Oh, there is the goal of 4,000 subscribers by Halloween. So we're up over 3,200 now. You guys have been like doing great job of sharing out the videos and everything that we're doing. So I know Shana wants to get to 5,000, but let's at least try to get to 4,000. I think we can do that by Halloween. So
Mike, I do have one thing when you're done.
I'm done.
Okay.
So we gotta get there.
For those in the chat who are following us on 34 Paranormal, again, reiterating, I have all of the SD cards. I've got all of the footage. I'm still going through that. Things are crazy, but it's going to be a pretty damn good documentary. So awesome. Just be patient. I'm working on it.
Sounds good. Can't wait for that to come out.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right.
And a little scared.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce Kyle Mecca. He is the writer and director of the movie Dwelling, and I do have my copy right here. Just came in yesterday. Watched it. It's fantastic, and you guys got to go get this movie. He's working on a bunch of other projects right now. Assistant director, does all kinds of production, filmmaking. Kyle, come on in. Introduce yourself.
How you doing, guys? Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, so I'm a freelance filmmaker. I wrote and directed Dwelling back in 2014. We went through almost 2 years of post-production and all that, and we finally had the chance to finally release it out to the public and all that, and it's been fantastic reception so far. So I'm really happy with it.
Yeah.
You have actually a pretty extensive background in film. I looked you up. You've got a fairly heavy body of work. I mean, in all different areas of filmmaking.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey the last couple of years. It's like I graduated from Buffalo State, which is a local SUNY college, in 2013 with a bachelor's in television and film arts. And from there, it's kind of when I met a lot of local filmmakers, people at ND Studios, and people, my friends Brandon T. Williams, when they were producing this, Joe Blodgett, and Matthew Nardone, and Matt Fleck, and just all locals in Buffalo, New York. And we started making short films, and then all of a sudden we kind of made the transition to, we made Dwelling, and then we fell on these other kind of features, and then the indie world kind of boomed down Buffalo. And ever since then, we've had major features come through. We've had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, we had Marshall last year, and now we're about to have another huge production come through called The True Adventures of Wolf Boy. So it's been a fantastic ride, and it just keeps rolling and rolling. And I'm happy that I'm able to stay at my hometown and get the work and get the experience that I need instead of going out to New York or going out to LA or Atlanta.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Be able to stay local, your hometown. You got all kinds of projects going on. You gotta love that. So people are asking in the chat room, and they're looking for a link to the trailer. I guess I put a link to the DVD in the description, but I guess I probably should have put a link to the trailer. They can just find that on the Facebook page, the trailer.
Yeah, if they go on there, you can just click and watch the trailer. It'll take it from there.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about Dwelling? I mean, I know why I really liked it, but go ahead, give them a little background as to the premise of it, because I loved it.
Well, thank you. So Dwelling is a pretty simple story about a young couple who deliberately move into a haunted house to speak to a loved one that's passed away. And we follow the journey of Ellie, who is our lead actress, and we follow our hero into her search to finding the answers of what happened to her mother at an early age. And she has a sister named River, played by Devaney Pinn, and Erin Maria Hogan, who plays Ellie, is now has her husband Gavin, played by Mushaka Benson, and now has custody of her niece Izzy, played by Abigail Mary, and they move into this haunted house and hope to wake something up that could help her make contact with her loved one.
Now, we have people, quite a few people in the chat asking if this, because you wrote this.
Yeah.
This is based on true events.
It's a mixture of different things. The best thing is, they always say the best type of writing is taking from what you know and all that. And I mixed in a lot of different experiences, either from my own to, stories from my family, stories from my mom, my grandma, it's just kind of hodgepodge of different things. And the premise, the idea of the conduit inside the film is this mirror that's painted black. And I've always had that idea stuck in my head since I was a kid. My grandfather and I he used to take me everywhere, and I used to spend all my time with him. And whenever we would be traveling from place to place, I would always say to him, tell me a story. And he would come up with random stories on the spot, and one of them involved this weird mirror that was painted black. And he never finished the story, and it always stuck in my head, even though I was 5, maybe, and I always said that I wanted to finish it. And I remember writing a short story, I think in middle school, maybe high school, that involved the black mirror, but I never really got to it. So when we had the opportunity to come up and make a feature, it was the first idea that jumped in my head, and then it was just taking little specks from my life and stories that I've experienced and my family's experienced and people around me experience, and kind of try to make a more grounded film in the paranormal world.
Yeah, it's a bit of a slow burn, kind of harkens back to that old school classic type of a feel. And I mean, what I really loved about it, what I thought it was very different, and what really kind of turned me on to you guys, a few years ago. And I can't remember how I stumbled across you. It was just I was going through something one day. I was like, I saw your some little feature you'd put together about the writing and the background of the film and the premise of it. And I was like, wow, this is really a different take, because usually these type of films, they move into a house and they later on discover it's haunted, but they purposely move into this house because it's haunted, and she wants to be able to utilize that power. So I'm just kind of curious as to where that stemmed from. It would just pop in your head, your muse speaking to you, or where did that come from?
I think it's just because I wanted to do something fresh on an old haunted house tale. You know what I mean? Everybody's seen that same thing, and for me, it's like you watch so many movies and they keep moving in, and it's haunted, and then they stay there.
Right.
And it's like, great. It's like anybody else in their right mind, they go to someplace. If it's haunted, most people will sit there and say, we're getting out,
Right.
And for me, it was like, I want to do a nice, what's the reason for them to stay? Well, what happens if, they have a deep-rooted reason on why they stay in that house? And I think it adds more to character development and motivation and stuff like that. They're there for a reason, and you eliminate off the bat them wanting to get out of there because they're going to stay there, So that kind of conflict right away is eliminated. And not only that, but it's if you watch the film and you listen closely and all that and pay attention to the actual days, in the beginning, I guess, not really spoilers, but spoilers, the one realtor mentions that the family before it has only been in it for 4 days.
Right.
The last, and if you pay attention to the days that it works, they're only in it for 4 days. So I didn't want to make this film that they're there for months and months and months. Like, as soon as the stuff, the going gets rough, they get out when they can. I wanted to keep it much grounded like that, and I feel like giving them a reason to go there and stay there, and being sensible in the reasonings of why they choose to stay there or why they choose to leave is more realistic compared to a lot of the more fantastical stories that we have gotten in the paranormal world.
Right. Yeah, because I just watched the latest Annabelle movie. I did a review on that a few weeks ago, and I thought it was a good movie. They did a good job with it, better than the first Annabelle movie. But even though they'd done a really good job with it, I've seen that story before. This was just using the Annabelle doll and all of that. But with yours, it's not the same story, which is great. So, what about your influences? I know we talked about that a couple of years ago, but just kind of freshen up the newer viewers.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can definitely see that I've been influenced on different things over the world or over the film, and they pull from different films and stuff like that. And in that sense, I guess it wouldn't be original, but we wanted to take it in a fresh, new way as the main direction and plot, the way we take it. So, I mean, I wanted to do a slow burn film. I wanted to do a callback to the 70s type horror, the tension and suspense, instead of the jump scares, instead of the loud noises and the, just a lot of the stuff that we get today that seems just like so cookie cutter. I wanted to go back to that slow moving tension and that kind of just you feel for the characters, and not much might happen, and it's a simple story, but as long as you're with the characters, you'll be able to move with them and feel the fright that they're going through. And I think for this type of a film and having them a reason of why they're there, I think it works best to go that type of tone. I love the old horror like The Omen and Rosemary's Baby, and and like I said, they're all built that similar way. But I gotta say, one of the newest films that I think had a huge influence on it was G. Bayona's The Orphanage. And and it's Spanish film and all that, and now he's going places now finally, and I think he deserves it for what he's done. And Guillermo del Toro produced it and all that, and it's the same exact thing. It's the same exact type of feel and pull from back then. It's about telling a human story as compared to just telling a story to scare people. And for me, as the writer and director, I wanted to keep that human story as the main piece of the film and then sprinkle in scares when they make sense. And that was the thing. We wanted to make a film that, if it does scare you, if it does get under your skin, we do it in the correct way. We want you to, maybe not have your feet on the edge of the bed at night. We want you maybe to like turn that mirror in your room the other way. We want you to, maybe think twice before taking pictures in the dark. Different stuff like that, where it's just when you go to sleep at night, you're thinking about this stuff, and it comes to you. And I'd rather have that than you have 2 seconds of being scared and then it goes away.
Right.
I want it to.
Yeah,
I
I like.
questions, Mike.
Go ahead.
Was one of your inspirations, based on the way that you're describing your filmmaking, was one of your inspirations Stanley Kubrick?
Kubrick is a big one. I'm actually a huge Alfred Hitchcock fan.
Oh, awesome.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
True master of suspense right there.
That suspense, Hitchcock, and also Rod Serling and his writing.
Absolutely, 100%. I could see that.
Yeah, Twilight Zone is one of my biggest. It's my favorite TV show of all time. So he always has huge influence in my writing, and Hitchcock as well. And like Kubrick is fantastic with his long shots and stuff like that. But we really don't get into that much long shots and oneers and stuff like that. But the tension that like he brings, similar to like in The Shining.
Absolutely.
Is stuff that, of course, any type of horror filmmaker should learn from and should be influenced on.
But unfortunately, they don't always do that.
No.
I'm glad that you're inspired by that. My other question, and it's going to be quick, is: did you have an occult advisor?
No. I did a lot of research myself into the different things, and growing up, me and a bunch of my friends, we used to go ghost hunting and go to different places and do different stuff, and we had, and a lot of my friends have read a ton of books on it, and we've experienced stuff ourselves, and luckily both of our actresses, including Erin she's been a part of this world too. She's done different experiences and stuff like that, and I think it's part of what drew her to being in the film. So we wanted to kind of surround the filmmaking group around it as people who have experienced this stuff and had a part in it. So this way, when we made the film, we actually kind of knew what we were talking about to a degree, instead of just like, we're writing a story to story and whatever happens, happens.
So the black painted mirror really calls to me. That's very symbolic. It's a scrying mirror, and I have one in my bedroom.
Oh, look at that!
There you go.
I was just curious about that, about the occult symbolism behind that. So
Yeah,
that was my question.
So we did a lot of different stuff, and like with the Black Mirror, I think the original idea that I think after doing research for it, where I think my grandpa got it from, was there was an old Night Gallery episode, and it had to do with a guy in some kind of a pawn shop or something like that, and he had a mirror that was painted black, and he scraped it off, and it was like another dimension. There was like dinosaurs on the other side, but it was like I think that's originally where he got it from. And then there was a book. It was from what is it again? The Hitchcock Detectives. What is
Yeah,
that?
the Three Detectives. I used to read those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I have a ton of those. I love the Three Detectives.
That's
Yep.
fun. And
Oh, wow.
it's The Secret of the Haunted Mirror, and it was funny because this showed up in my doorstep 2 days before we started shooting the film.
Oh, sweet. Put that back up and let me get back into the bigger view with you. Nice.
That is
That's awesome.
And yeah, so my friend Mike Fitzpatrick, he went to a bookstore and he found it, and he brought it to me, and I was reading it, and I'm like, the movie, we're ready to shoot, and it was like, wow, there's some similarities to my grandfather's story and all that, and it's sitting on my coffee table, and my grandpa comes over, same day, and it's just like, oh, you found it. I'm like,
nice.
What are you talking about? He's like, the story that I started with you so many years ago, and he's like, I took part of the influence from that. I'm like, wait, what?
That's awesome.
Like, what are you knowing? Oh yeah, we had a ton of stuff like that went off. So it was like from there, and just getting into mirror gazing and psychomantiums and different other stuff from the occult. You know, we just kind of call back anything that I feel like would have worked for the plot, and try to be as realistic as possible to occultists.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
yeah. Speaking of your influences and your background, you did have a story, a submission in
Yes.
Encounters with the Paranormal. So I do want to talk a little bit about that in your story here. People probably don't know that, but yeah, I got stuff falling out of here. But there's a story, Marie. So how did your experiences, as a younger guy, influence you into your filmmaking?
So like in the book, which I have right here for you too.
Yeah, there we go.
I talk about the story that I called Marie, and I'd rather have you guys buy the book and read it yourselves.
There you go.
but it touches on stuff when I was really, really young, when I was almost a baby, or when I was like 3 or 4, and kids are always interactive, it seems like, and can interact with people who's passed on and stuff like that, and that was me growing up. And I used to hear stories from my mom and from my aunts and my uncles and stuff like that, me looking past them and laughing at stuff and talking to people and talking on the phone with different people and having dreams of people, and then finding out that either that person was an old relative, or that, or I'm talking to someone who's recently passed, or seeing different things. And I think, which kind of creeped me out learning about it when I was older, because it's like, oh great, I had no clue that happened. But I feel like my family in general, especially my mom, has always had a little bit into that psychic type world, and in touch with the paranormal all of her life. She's had a lot of experiences, and really influenced me on my storytelling as well.
Great.
So it's...
Hey, we do have a question from the chat room. One of our Mad Hatters has a question for you, from Rebecca Gardner. Have you ever thought about making a film about an old asylum?
It has, and I have thought about it, and especially because in Buffalo we have this old psych center called the Buffalo Psychiatric, and it's now called the Hotel Henry. It's been turned into a hotel, and they just opened it this year, but it's right on the same campus as Buffalo State. And if you look up this building, it's monstrous, and it's really, really haunting, and just looking at it. And there's so many old stories, and it was still open up until I think 70s or like early 80s and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it's one of like the biggest state asylums in the country. And living right near that, going to school right next to that, like, it's always one of the big things growing up was, we got to get in there, we got to see this place, And my cousin was lucky enough to be one of the people who, when they went in there and they started touching it up and doing stuff with it, he was able to get in there and see all the old equipment and take pictures with it. And he actually got me a old blueprint of the grounds that he found in there.
Oh, very
stuff
cool.
like that. So, it was fantastic. And like the tunnels from underneath that used to run into the Buffalo State campus, and people used to always have stories of like walking by, and you had the patients that would like be at like the fenced windows that would talk to you and like want you to throw up a cigarette or something like that, and then when they would escape or they would be released, a lot of the houses across the street from the psych center, they don't have any front steps or front doors. Like, all the porches have no steps, because a lot of the inmates or the patients used to walk and try to get into the house to try to use the bathroom or try to hide and stuff like that. So the houses off of Richmond and a lot of the streets surrounding it, they don't have any front steps. And any ones that do have front steps are only built in the last 20 years or so, because they need to add on to the addition since they've been closed.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of crazy stories happen there. And now they Now it's a hotel, and
Yeah,
it's
which
absolutely gorgeous.
one of the questions from the chat room from Lynn's White is, are there any reports of it being haunted since it was converted into a hotel?
Oh yeah, big time.
What did they say about it?
It's just because there were so many people who stood there that they, I believe it was, I forgot what year it was, but it might have been in the 70s, 60s and 70s and stuff like that, and they had just overpopulation inside of it, in which they had just people in rooms going to bathrooms in buckets and stuff like that, and just so many things as a state asylum, and so many stories that we've heard from the inside out, including similar stuff like that, that it's just, how can it not be haunted?
Right.
It's one of those things, It's not even just the stories. It's like, how can it not be?
Yeah, a place like that,
so,
sure.
I'm trying to curious to be going to stay at. I want to stay at that hotel one of these nights, and just to be there, and feel exactly how it is there, and it might be completely different, but something could be lurking.
Yeah.
You never know.
So, from a filmmaking viewpoint, there's a number of different asylum movies out there. A lot of times it's old abandoned asylum. People, kids are getting in, or what have you, and they have a run of the place while somebody's trying to kill them or whatever. There's probably a couple of different storylines that get rehashed all the time. So, you did a fresh take with Dwelling on a haunted house story. If you had to do an asylum, how do you think you might be able to approach that from a fresh point of view?
Well, I think what actually happened with it is really interesting. The fact that they took a psychiatric hospital and now tried to dust it off and make it an actual place to stay, like a beautiful hotel, I think is a crazy idea that it's actually happened. And I don't know if there is a film out there that's kind of done something similar to that, other than like The Shining of it burning down, rebuilding, or something like that, because it's almost like they're kind of sweeping history under the rug, and they don't really want you to look a little bit farther than polished marble and brand new floors, and so it's. I think if I did something like that, I think it would actually take influence from real life and be like, okay, what could actually happen nowadays?
Right.
Did they keep the original structure for the most part and just pretty it up, or
pretty much? It's the front is exactly the same. I haven't really been inside since. Or haven't been inside yet to see exactly what they've done, but what I've heard from is some things they rebuilt and other things that they just kind of made better and kind of brought it back to life. And I know it's only like a small section of it. I know there's like the big parts of it that they haven't even touched and stuff like that, but it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you're from Buffalo. And and like I said, I think exactly, if I want to take a new take, I think it would be taking it from real life and exploring that idea.
Oh, it's a brilliant idea. Do it.
Get another one. Already in the back line. No. All right now.
You're gonna drop that off the list.
Yeah, you're gonna end up with like a whole list of different things that you want to write and do and produce, and I'm kind of the same way with books. I have my laundry list of stuff, and I'm sure you have yours too. So, are you gonna be doing anything? I know you had the story that you contributed to Encounters. Are you gonna be doing any more writing like that, as maybe stories or a book or anything like that?
Right now, I'm currently going to start writing my next feature that I'll want to try to get financing for and all that different stuff, and that's actually going more towards thriller, neo-noir-ish.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of thrillers and stuff like that, and it does still have supernatural aspects to it. Like I don't think I'll ever get away from that. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards right now, and so that's the next thing on my table. But I always read short stories and different stuff like that, in which taking influence from horror or the paranormal and stuff like that.
Well, you even dubbed Dwelling more of like a paranormal thriller rather than straight up horror film.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and to me that's what it is. It shouldn't. it's not necessarily horror at all. It is a paranormal thriller.
Right.
I think that's my preference, though. It's got more beef to it.
But
Yeah, I think something that's more mind-bending that makes you think,
Yeah.
rather than just all jump scares. Yeah.
You need to write one about a crazy redhead from Oklahoma. You need to do. Just throw that out there, Kyle, okay? It's all right.
okay, I'll put it on my list.
Thank you.
So let me ask you. I mean, what's your take on that as far as like the modern horror film, the modern you have a paranormal thriller, because it seems like a lot of them are going toward more of the jump scares. The last couple of movies that I've reviewed, like I said, the Annabelle one was pretty good. Still had its jump scares. They tried to relaunch the whole Blair Witch thing, and it was like jump scare, jump scare, jump scare. And I know you talked a little bit about that earlier, but what do you think about the modern genre like that? Do you think they're going to keep going more toward jump scares? Is that working, or do you think that they're going to start shying away from that? Because like from a lot of the people that I talk to, at least like our Mad Hatters that are here in the chat room, that doesn't really do it for them. It's more of like what you just did with Dwelling that they like.
I think they're starting to smarten up, because I mean the filmmaker behind the new Annabelle, and like people like Michael Flanagan, who just did the sequel to Ouija, but now he's made fantastic films, including Oculus himself, and
Oculus was good.
Now I think he's doing Gerald's Game, and it's they're finally noticing that like we have these creative independent filmmakers, and maybe we should give it to them for their own vision, and that'll do better. So I think the sequel to Ouija and the sequel to Annabelle are evidence that they're getting it. They're slowly getting it. This is what we have to go. We have to go with real creative filmmakers, people who do kind of understand the genre, understand suspense. Because I think here and there we've seen leaks of films that are fantastic in building that, and maybe don't identify with every single audience, and now they have to hit universal themes. So I mean, films like It Follows, I absolutely loved, because it hit a universal theme, and it had that thriller suspense and basic idea of terror. Films like The Witch, which was a little bit.
I was going to ask you about that.
People, and it's Old English, and but the way that he was able to use the cinematography mixed with the suspense in that is phenomenal. And now the same director is now going to be directing a remake of Nosferatu, which really has me interested, because I usually hate remakes, but the way that he shot that film, I'm really interested to see what he does with that.
Nosferatu is almost 100 years old. At some point,
exactly. Like no one's going to watch that anymore.
Right.
They should, but no one.
I think it's on Netflix. I think you can watch it on Netflix.
Yeah. I don't know what score they have with it, but I think it's on there, and people should, especially with the genre. And new one that just came out, It Only Comes Out at Night, or something like that. Those films are kind of not secretly, but they're finally getting it. And I think we're going to eventually see more and more of that out there. And I hope we do, because I think those are the stories that are really hit home for the real thrill seekers and the real paranormal, occultist people.
And I was going to ask you specifically about The Witch, because it is, at least to me, it was more of a period piece, and you had that, kind of like yours, that slow build-up. But it really was a period piece, because they are talking in the Old English and all that. So how difficult, even though it's really a small setting, but still the way they filmed that, how difficult is it to pull something like that off?
Oh, I mean, I think it's what they needed to do is they needed to really find an audience, and also find how they would tell their simple story with suspense and tension. And number one is, the woods has always been one of those settings that everybody automatically you think of is identifying as with tension and suspense, because you don't know what's out there, especially at night. You put it in a setting of a period piece in which, there's not that many people out there, and the people that are out there, banned you from the village, and you're stuck out there all by yourself. You have a time of serious religious questions in which, you know, they believe that the devil is a walking human being and that witches are real. And back then you really didn't know what modern technology is. So I think there was a lot to play with that. And I think it was a smart idea to make it a small story like that and keep it within a family and keep it within the unknown. So I was really impressed at what they did with that. And I know some of my even lead actors in this film hated that movie.
Really?
But
I like that.
hated that movie.
I like
but,
it.
I saw it. You know, I just saw it. I was impressed at what they were able to do with what they did.
Yeah, it was the whole disintegration of this family, and I thought, you know, even with the child actors, they did a fantastic job with handling the Old English.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, it was hard for me to understand at some point, and it's just because we don't speak like that anymore.
Right.
You know, but you know, also the lead actress in that, she's fantastic in everything she does. And she was just in Split, and you know, I think you really need strong acting for something like that, and everyone in there was money, you know, in that film. Oh, yeah. So I really respect that film.
We have another question from the chat room. This one is from our chat Shananigator, Shana. She's asking, does Kyle investigate the places in regular investigation style before filming, like spend the night, gather evidence, EVP session to see what's in there?
Not at the actual, well, I have a couple of stories. So, yeah, when I was younger, we used to do it all the time. We used to, you know, spend overnight. We used to do EVPs. There's this old cemetery near here, which is really famous, in which I won't say the name of it just because a lot of terrible things have happened to where people live just like made it decrepit, and people go there drunk, try to investigate and stuff like that. So I don't want to spread that anymore. But
yeah, alcohol and investigating don't mix. Don't do it, people.
No, and it was a terrible thing to see, and especially because it's going to make things worse for what you know. You want these spirits to find a place of rest,
right? And
now all you're doing is rekindling something they should be doing. But we used to go there, and we used to spend hours there or overnight, and do EVP sessions. And we had some fantastic EVPs that we got. I don't think I was really a full believer of EVPs until that happened one night. And it was me and a few buddies, and we got back to the house and we started reviewing them. And there was one that came out and said, "Don't let me go," and it was clearly in a woman's voice.
Okay.
You know, and it was really, really distinguishable. And we were like, "Wow, this is crazy." And then there was like a beat of a few seconds, and then clearly in a man's voice, it comes out and says, "They can't hear you." And we got chills because it was not only that we heard, you know, something from the other side, but we also heard someone that was acknowledging both sides and knowing that there's a disconnect between this world and the next. And I think right there it was just made me a total true believer, because it's just like, never would have expected this to work going into it because I was so young and new to all this, but to hear that really just made me want to investigate more and to learn more about the paranormal.
Right.
And we had a chance when we were shooting Dwelling, we shot all the hospital stuff in an old abandoned hospital called Millard Fillmore Gates, and it's now actually it was imploded, so it's no longer standing. And but when we were shooting, there was already abandoned, so we had free roam of the floors and stuff like that, and a lot of the stuff they just kind of left. So we really didn't need to do much production design because much of the stuff was already there.
Oh, that's good.
And before we were finished filming and all that, the one caretaker of the place, you know, asked us, "Hey, do you guys want to go down to the morgue and like do an investigation?" And we were like, "Yeah, absolutely."
All right, yeah.
Yeah, we had, you know, me, the main, you know, some of my other filmmakers, and then my lead actress, Erin Marie Hogan, who's done investigations before. We went down there and we did DVPs, and we sat there for a while and sat in the dark in the middle of this morgue in this old abandoned hospital, and just got to do that in the place that we were shooting. And it was a great experience, you know. And then
very cool. Yeah, I wanted to also ask you, because a couple years ago, as well as I had interviewed Erin Marie Hogan, and she told me about having some experience with investigating and what have you. So, how do you think that helped her to portray her character, Ellie?
I think it helped her give understanding. Me as a director, I've been called an actor's director, and it's because it's more about conversations and almost kind of taking the theater approach of let's create a backstory together, let's go over why you're here in this moment, and here's how do you get from here to here to here in an arc. And with her, I think she already kind of identified a lot with the character going into it based off the script, and I think her experiences with the paranormal herself let her identify with how committed she is as a character to finding her mother, to going places that a normal person wouldn't go. And it really showed. I think it really worked, especially in the conversations we had, and in the direction. She was already there. And it was nice to have an actor that was so committed to the role, and because already on the same level before even, opening out our mouths to each other,
I have a question real quick, Mike. Kind of based on what you just asked. Okay, so when you've been filming, you've done investigations separate of the filming, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. As you're going through your footage and everything that you've caught while filming, have you found paranormal evidence that you didn't know was there?
We had, obviously the EVPs were a big thing, but we've had photographs from this same cemetery that, they've always been stories about women in white and women in dresses and stuff like that. And we found, and there's a woman in a white dress standing right next to us, or there's, a figure of a dog and stuff like that. So we've seen stuff that, I'm not a huge, I have questions about the whole entire orb thing and all that. That kind of throws me off a little bit. But when you actually see figures and hear voices and feel a presence, I think that's more evidence than you ever need. You just need to experience yourself, and usually it happens when you least expect it.
I'm just wondering if the energy behind filming a movie, especially about that, might have aided in bringing it forward to you a little more.
Well, I would say yes, because we've had a ton of stories surrounding this film. We had from, so let's start. So we had, days before we started shooting and all that, we had one of the mirrors in my garage, and it was before we painted it, and this bird would come in every single morning and sit on top of this mirror. And it was okay, and I think it was a blackbird, and it was great, good start. And then so we were out there, we walk out there, and it flew out, and instead of flying away, it would turn around and flew right into the mirror. Boom. And it hit, got up, and took off. But it was okay, well, there's one omen. And then the day the morning that we started, we had another blackbird, hit the window of our house. When we were shooting, we had another bird hit the window of the house that we were shooing in, our main one.
Well, you were filming Dwelling, not the birds, right?
No.
But you're a big Hitchcock fan, so there you go.
All the spirit stuff that would happen. And then we had stuff we found out, so the floor that we were shooting in the hospital, in the room that we shot in, I didn't know until I took my mother there, but the room right next to the one that we were shooting at was the one where my grandmother, on my mom's side, passed away when she was young. Never knew what room, never knew what floor, and it happened to be right next door. And, I took my mom there to just visit set, and she just started crying. And he's like, what? And she's like, no, this is the room. And I'm like, well, how do you know? And she's like, because the fountain out front was dead center with the window. And of course we walk in, we open the window, and boom, it's right there. So we had stuff like that. We had stories of, that happened with our actors, that happened with way after since then, I feel like we've almost been cursed with different stuff that's happened from filming.
That's not uncommon.
And exactly, and I think that's the thing. When you're touching on the atmosphere of the paranormal, you almost kind of attract it.
Yeah, you invite it in.
And you invite it in. And I know a lot of the best films that's happened to The Omen, to Poltergeist, to, and it's...
Yeah, Poltergeist is a good example.
And I feel like we did it. So for us, it was like, okay, well, either we did something really good, or we did something wrong. And we should back away for a second. But it's out, and you can buy it.
Yeah.
So I think we did something right.
It's right there.
Right there.
Right there. What about the house itself? Was there anything going on there? You talked, about the hospital, but what about the actual house that you filmed in?
One of our producers, Arlen, she lives there right now.
Oh, okay.
And we've always felt that thing was haunted. She would be able to tell you more than I would since she lives there. But the feel of the house in general, it was an old farmhouse. It was, when we got to it, I think the owners of it, which was her aunt and uncle, didn't touch it for almost like 2 years. They would come in because they'd have a ranch in the back with horses and a huge barn.
Okay.
So they'd come there to take care of the horses and stuff like that. But they really didn't live there. So when we walked in, there was already cobwebs and spiders and like dust, and it already seemed like it hadn't been lived in. So like all we just needed to do was spruce it up a little bit to seem a little bit more theatrical, so you can see it on film. But I know Aaron was convinced that it was haunted in that house, and I don't blame her. I ended up getting sick from shooting at that house while we were shooting it and all that. I don't know if it was something in the house or whatever it was, but I ended up getting sick, and I think 2 other people did. And then as soon as we moved on the next week to a different location, I got like completely better. So it's like I don't know what we touched on, but so definitely I think that house might have something.
I'm not going to lie to you. The first time I saw it in the trailer, I messaged a friend of mine in Virginia, Gwen. I messaged her and said, "This reminds me way too much of a place we've investigated." It gave me the creeps.
Oh yeah, it's really.
And not just how it looked; it was the vibe of it.
And when you see the film too, it's almost like every single room is taken from a different decade, and it's just designed that way. It's like 70s, 80s, and then upstairs is like one's remodeled and one looks like, and it's just so odd how it almost looks like this house was put together. So when I wrote the film, it was like, okay, well, maybe these different families moved in and out so quickly that they tried to remodel a room and then they got kicked out, then they got out, and then so I took a lot of influence of walking through that house to add to the script after the fact. And it has a crazy vibe. And the barn itself, which we don't feature in the film at all, but it's in the opening credits. Creepy barn. It's huge, gigantic, huge rafters, birds everywhere, and yeah, exactly. Again,
there you go, birds again.
It was itself could have been its own horror story, and I tried really, really hard to make a scene that we could fit in there, but I didn't want to sacrifice the rest of the film just to fit in one location.
Right. So, but you did get in the opening credits, like you said. I liked your opening credits. I thought that was very artistically done. So you had a good team working for you.
Yeah, we had there's an artist in Buffalo named David Jackson, and we had him do our opening titles for us. Mm-hmm. And I kind of just let him go for it. We took a couple photos, a couple stills that we took around the place. Me and Matt Lorenz went back to the house and took some stuff and shots, and kind of just handed it over to David, and I was just like, okay, I want to have an opening sequence in which kind of just already puts you in the mood. Just has you settle down, you get used to it, kind of get the tone and the vibe from it, and get hints at what's to come. But I really don't have any.
I gotta mention it real quick. Robert White in the chat room has a sequel for you, Dwelling 2, The Barn.
Perfect. That's great.
But since we're talking about artwork, Who did the artwork for the? It was really really creepy. The artwork that you depicted that Devaney had drawn.
Oh, so that was our art director, Joe Blodgett. He,
Okay.
Me and him actually created a lot of the chalk drawings and stuff like that ourselves. He did
Cool.
He did most of them, and then I wanted to throw some of my own art in there too. But yeah, he came up with that, and I gave him some direction of how I wanted it to look,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think we have one in the pile that Devaney did when she was actually doing it.
Oh wow.
And all
Okay.
that. Yeah, Joe did a fantastic job.
Oh yeah, very very creepy cool. I when that stuff came up the screen, I was like, whoa, that's pretty dang good.
Yeah, you did great with those.
So now this was an independent film. You used crowdfunding, you used Kickstarter, and that's kind of how I found you somehow along the way. I wasn't purposely on Kickstarter. It was just I came across you somewhere, and it led me to the Kickstarter page and all that stuff. So how did that work out for you as being an independent film, getting the funding together, and getting this produced, and now you're finally on DVD. Talk a little bit about that process.
It helped us a great deal, I think, especially because back then we didn't really have the resources, the connections that we even have now,
Mm-hmm.
A couple years later, and working in the industry and all that, we were just, basically broke college filmmakers who just got out of college and just, okay, what are we going to do now?
Right.
And, okay, so we ended up doing the crowdfunding, and I think we got around just over 12 grand off the crowdfunding alone, and then we were able to find investors and donators off of that that we were able to pitch ideas for and have them be a part of the film. And for something starting off the ground, it was a huge thing for us. I did a few Kickstarters before that, and I don't think I made any more than maybe $1,000. And it was mostly family, and here it is people from all walks of life that identified with an idea and agreed to help make this film. So, nowadays it's more popular, crowdfunding. It's also a little bit more harder to do because there's so many more projects out there. But it's definitely a great resource, especially to start off the bat. And you want something you love, keep passion, and try to find people that are just as passionate.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I really respected about your projects. You guys kept pushing, and like I said, I was attracted to a storyline that was different. It was refreshing. So I followed you guys for a long time through that whole process, and I just really respected the work that you guys did.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah,
I get paid Friday, so I'm gonna go buy it.
There you go. So it's at Walmart now, and I put a link to Amazon down there in the description, so you guys can click on that and go buy it. And I'll add the Facebook page link there later too. So this is it. So how can people find you?
For me, I'm on Facebook if you want to find me. I also have a website, kylemecca.net, if you want to look me up. You can go to dwellingmovie.com. Give you all the links to all the different places that you can buy Dwelling. We're available for pre-order on Amazon, FYE, Barnes & Noble, Best Buy, a lot of different platforms there. And that will be pre-ordered for release on September 26th. And then Walmart right now in stores. So I advise calling the Walmart beforehand, see if there's any copies left or if they have them in stock. I know in Western New York we've been selling out like crazy. So we've had a lot of people who's been waiting for more stock. Right. So I don't know how it is everywhere, but I've been getting texts from different places saying that this is the last one. So definitely call ahead and make sure you get your copy or pre-order it and the other stuff. And like I said, just keep watching it. Spread the word.
Yeah, we'll keep putting it out there for you. Definitely, we'll keep sharing the links and all that. Looks like Brandon Williams is down there in the chat. Bewildered Media Productions. I know they're asking in the chat about Netflix and other distribution channels. Since for the archive, they can't see the chat. So You want to talk a little bit about that? I think he was saying that it's being pitched.
It's to be announced right now. We're trying to get it on different on-demand platforms and all that, and video on demand and stuff like that. So it will be coming soon, but we'll let you know more details as soon as we know.
Awesome.
And people are really singing your praises, and they're checking you out. Watching this as well. They're like, it got 7 out of 10 stars.
Yeah, I see that from Dawn.
IMDb, which is huge for a paranormal thriller or anything like that. They just don't get the higher ranking stars, and you did, so you should be unbelievably proud of yourself.
Thank you. Like I said, for me, it really isn't so much about all that, and I just want people to see the film, and if one person identifies with it, then I'm happy.
Yeah, but it's your film, it's your baby, so definitely be proud of it. Definitely.
Oh, I am. I'm just saying, I'm not huge over like people reviewing it or anything like that. I just take it for what it is, and if you like it, you like it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm excited.
Yeah, like I said, I watched it last night. Finally showed up in the mail for me yesterday, so I popped it right in there. I was like, hey, gotta check it out, because it's been a couple years, and I just remember sharing your stuff out. Like, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens when it's an independent film that basically has no money.
Right.
It takes forever to get it done.
But you had it out there like the film festival there in Buffalo. Did you get it out anywhere else as far as like the festival circuit?
No, and not even with that. That was more of just like we were kind of doing like a private pre-screening. It wasn't even a finished film at that point. We had more tweaks to it, so it was more of just a private screening to get feedback on it, and then we tweaks, and then we're able to go from there. So and like I said, then we were able to get Sony Pictures Home Entertainment handled distribution for us, which was a great thing. So,
cool.
Yeah, we lucked out.
Yeah.
But it's been quite the journey.
Super Woody Boy in the chat room, one of our Mad Hatters, is saying that he thinks you should go into television. Have you ever thought about television? You strictly a film guy?
I don't know. It depends on what it is.
Maybe the right offer.
I'm a film guy, I think.
Okay.
Unless it's like a Netflix type series, like a serial series, like Twilight Zone or Black Mirror or something like that. It's the only time I
think I can see you doing something like Black Mirror. Yeah.
It's one of my new favorites. So.
And a question from Shana, our chat Shananigator. Will Kyle be doing a lot of the conventions to promote it?
As of right now, nothing is really scheduled. I want to basically get through this fall and all that. I'm working on a lot of films, so as soon as I have a free moment and I'm able to jump on something, I absolutely do it.
Okay.
Just been a working man.
Yeah, no, that's a good question for it, because September 23rd, I'm going to be in Owego, New York. It's the Southern New York Paranormal Film Expo. I forget, it's a whole long title. So I don't know if there's like opportunities like that to get into and get the film screened or anything like that.
Right now, I think we're trying to avoid a lot of the screenings right now, since it's so fresh out there. We kind of wanted people to be able to get out there and see it themselves and all that. But I think we're gonna head in that world soon. Once we're able to have things kind of get out there in the public eye first. But definitely message me if you're going to be that close, and let's talk. Maybe I'll be able to come up and visit you or something like that.
Hey, that'd be great. Yeah, finally get a chance to meet you. That'd be fantastic. And now as we're starting to wind down, all the questions are rolling in. From Joanne Rubino, did Kyle only do the one movie so far? I know you have a long resume of stuff you've been working on, but I think...
Yeah, this was my first feature.
Yeah.
I wrote and directed on that, so on to the next now.
On to the next. And from Super Woody Boy, another one. Have you ever seen Friday the 13th, the series?
I think I did about 1 or 2 episodes.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm more of a Nightmare on Elm Street fan.
Yeah.
So,
well, then let me ask you that. Did you ever watch the Nightmare on Elm Street series?
Yes, I have.
Did you? Okay. Was it the Fat Boys that did their theme music for that? Are you ready for Freddy? I think so.
And honor to Toe Hooper, that just passed away and all that. He did one of the big episodes on there, you know. It was his origin story, Freddy's origin story on that.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Okay, cool.
Unfortunately, he's passed away, and one of the greats. You know?
Yeah. And Shana's saying that if I meet up with you, make sure you do a selfie with Ghosty. Have you seen the whole Ghosty thing? When we've been doing that?
You were talking about it beforehand, but please enlighten me.
Yeah. Ghosty is the mascot of Haunted Road Media. So we've been having people, people that get Ghosty, they take selfies with him. We post them up there on. He has his own Facebook page. So. Yeah, so it's fun, and then we do like a whole Where's Ghosty thing, kind of like the Where's Waldo thing. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. So we'll have to get a picture of you if we meet up. So, which I hope we can do. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, we'll talk about it and all that. It's been gonna be crazy busy, but
oh yeah,
it's a week. Right? Yeah, so
yeah, it's a weekend. It's a Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what I can do. That'd be great.
That'd be great. All right, well, Vanessa, we are at our hour mark.
We are.
We are.
I lost y'all completely for a minute. I froze, so I couldn't hear half of what you just said. But I'm sure it was great.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Don't forget I'm buying it Friday, so I will send you a message and be singing your praises.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hey, Kyle, I really appreciate you coming on the show, coming back. This is a couple years in the making here, bringing you back. So. Really do appreciate you coming out and sharing everything with Dwelling. Again, everybody, go check it out. Yes, Shana, I saw your message. I will bring this to Illinois this weekend. So you can check it out. And again, just one last time where people can find you.
I'm online. You can search me on Facebook, or you can go online, KyleMecca.net, to check out more about me. Go to dwellingmovie.com. There we'll give you links to all different places that you can purchase the film.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that's going to do it, everybody. For Vanessa Hogle and our chat Shananigator Shana, I'm Mike Ricksecker. Everybody have a great night. And go check out Dwelling and this man here, Kyle Mecca. Great night, everyone.
Bye.